Hey guys, it's John with part two. When we left off, we had the bottom of the display case and the lid of the display case. I went ahead, and it's very hard to see, but I went ahead and grooved with an awl or just a razor blade very lightly all the wood. Might be easier to see on there, I don't know. But that'll just give it some wood texture. And the big change I'm having is, since this channel is going to deal with a lot of reusable and modular pieces, I thought, hey, I should make this with a lid, open and close lid, instead of gluing it down. It's so much easier to just glue this down and have permanent pieces in here. However, I'm going to go with the interchangeable one, even though I said I wasn't. So you'll need, the trickiest thing is the lid. So if you're at all worried, just glue the lid on. So what you need to do is buy some ribbon. And I got mine at the Dollar Tree. It was, I got black, and I got the kind that is sheer, where you can see through it. I did that because that would give it a lot of surface area for the glue to go through. You can kind of see there. So the only bad thing is you get these little wisp, little angel hair like things coming out. So you want to be careful on that. So I glued the ribbon to the underside of the lid. So you pick your worst side, your non-groove side, and you will glue this to. You let this thoroughly dry, at least 15 minutes. And then you want to crease this all the way over, and you want this to be a good solid crease. Because the problem with, because this is the hinge, and you don't want a thick ribbon, because it will raise, when it sets on the base, it will raise the back. It will raise the back up too much. And remember, we purposely left an overhang. So if you look at the base and you're just dry fitting it, you want the base to be on the, you want this back end to be more in line with this, with just a slight overhang. And you're going to want an overhang in the front, because we're going to use a clasp, a magnet clasp, and I'll go over that in a little bit. And I'll show you a link to where you can get these rare earth magnets on eBay for 99 cents. I think you can get 30 of them. I ordered a couple hundred, and it was like $7. So they're great. You can use them for multiple projects, but the magnets will help fix the issue of if your ribbon's too thick or if it's offset a little bit. It'll keep your lid closed. And notice this ribbon comes through here. Don't worry, we'll trim that up. So we'll trim the ribbon at the end. So right now you're just focused on making sure this is dry and thoroughly creased. And so once that is, then you're going to do the tricky part, and that is use masking tape. So get some cheap masking tape, and you want enough to cover the entire ribbon. I always do that. And you want to get this as straight on the edge as possible. So I may get in the way, because this is what you're going to be gluing between them. So you want this secured. Sorry guys, my camera died. So basically you want this seam to be right along the edge with the ribbon. So when you go over the top and glue this, it's nice and flat. So you don't want any glue gluing the two ribbons together. Okay. So next you're going to take you're going to find your base, and you find the worst piece. Like, notice how that's got a little, doesn't match up very well. This one does. So I want to have this as my outside piece, so the display where the characters are coming. So I will put a bead of PVA glue on here, and I'll glue my top to this. So, and it doesn't take a lot of PVA glue. Try not to get it on the inside like I just did. Horrible. Making a terrible mess. It's easier to do this without the camera. Okay, so here's the tricky part. We want this to be on it to where this is, the ribbon isn't popping out this way. You want this to be lined up pretty much right on the ribbon. So this is almost flush, where when you look on the other side, this has an overhang. Oh, what I should have said, and what I said in the last time, is you want to have some tape prepared, which of course I do not have. So that would have been very wise. Even mentioned it last time, and I had it, because now I'm going to mess up my seam. So sorry about that. Got some tape prepared, 2 pieces. So you want that to line up on the edges. I'll slide it over a little bit this way. So you're centered there. So this is more towards the back. Then you're just going to tape this. You want this tight. You're trying to seal the glue in. You don't want the lid to have any play. You want this super tight. I would let this dry about as long as you can, at least 30 minutes. And while it's still here, I'm going to take a brush, because I went crazy on this, and clean off that inside glue. Do it now while it's not pulled up. So there we go. And same thing back here. Just kind of work that in there. I just don't want it pulled up on my, I don't want it to mess with my wood grain. Let me check this other one that I did. Yep. This is the one I did on the original video. Alright. Hey guys, it's John again. This is where we left off. We let this dry. We glued the lid to the base. So let's undo the masking tape. I let this set overnight. You don't have to let it set that long. Alright. You want to be careful opening that, because some glue does sneak through. So usually I'm more careful than that. I forgot about that. So take it nice and easy. So that's what you're going to be left with, and you can see some glue is pulled up there. That's not a problem. So now we take care of this ribbon, and the nice thing about this ribbon is it's so easy to cut. So I just get a long straight razor. I got these at Walmart for 28 cents a piece. And while we're waiting, you can do a couple things. You can get the felt started. Basically I went to Hobby Lobby and I got a couple of sheets of felt. This is what I'm going to use for the base to put the weapons and other things on. These were 33 cents a piece, and they're perfect for this. Basically, the inside dimension of this is an inch wide and 3 7/8 inches long by the popsicle sticks that I bought. You'll want to definitely know your measurements. You want these inserts to be less than that, to where they can pop out fairly easily, because we're still going to have to put in a piece of plastic on the inside, so that's going to take some of this. And if you notice, there's a slight indent here, which is about perfect for this. So what I did is I cut these out and I let them soak overnight in 50-50 water and PVA glue, and that makes them pretty stiff, so they'll be a nice base. So they'll just snap right in, and of course when you dry fit them, you'll not want anything bunched up. what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make these, and this is, I apologize, I know this is black and it's hard to see, but there's a little piece of metal here, and there's two little magnets right here. You can hear it. That's what holds this in place. Now, how I got the little piece of metal is I just had these picture hangers, and I took one out, and I'm using that, just cutting slivers off with a snip. I cut a bunch already. So you're wanting to cut them nice and thin, because you don't need a lot of metal, because you want it to fit on the overhang here. So I glue that, and I used super glue. You could use E6000 or anything like that. I wouldn't use Elmer's glue. So after this was thoroughly set, I closed it, and then I put a little dab of super glue there, and that's where I put these little magnets. And I'll show you where to get these little magnets. I'll have a little pop-up. You can get them from eBay. They're about 2 cents a piece. You can get 30 for 99 cents, and that includes shipping. So I ordered a couple hundred, and I think it was $7. You can use these for multiple projects. You definitely want to get these. And then after this is all set and you're happy with it, I base painted it black. I spray painted it, but you definitely don't have to. And then I'm going to do burnt umber, like DM Scotty, that brown. And I use the cheap $1 paint, so I'll have a pop-up showing those paints. And then once that's thoroughly dry, I'll dry brush with cinnamon, just because I like that wood look. And that should help the grains pop up. And then I'll polyurethane it, because it's going to be handled a lot. And only then will I cut the plastic inserts. And the plastic is just plastic that I got, I know this is hard to see, from my kids' toys at Christmas, the big boxes and stuff. I just cut sheets of plastic out of this, about the width of a cereal card box, so it's pretty sturdy. Get it nice and watery, and I use this cheap Americana burnt umber, and it really, you can see the black through it a lot, which is what I like about using this cheap with slightly watered down. So after you get this, you'll dry brush it with cinnamon, folk art cinnamon, and it will come out like this. And I went ahead and painted the magnet and little metal piece, gunmetal. So after we do this, we're basically, and here's the gunmetal. Sorry, the gunmetal I used. If Craft Smart from Michaels. So we're basically ready to polyurethane it, and I won't show you that. And then we'll be ready to insert the plastic. Hey guys, I polyurethaned this and waited for it to dry, so it gives it this nice shine to the inside and out. You can see how well that blends. I went ahead and I installed the top piece of plastic. You can kind of see the reflection in there, and the piece of plastic in there. And I haven't done this one yet. I figured I would show you how I did it. I experimented with super glue. This is going to be very hard to see. I experimented with super glue, and it leaves a cloudy residue. And I experimented with goop. And that works pretty well, except it leaves like little rubbery balls, and it smells horrible and gives you a headache. So I was like, crap, because when you look inside, there's just this little edge between the edge here and there. So I'm like, what do I use now? I thought, well, I'll polyurethane the inside, and then I'll tape it down and see if that will hold. And it does. One of the things that you'll want to do is you'll want your edge here, try not to, you'll have it close without going too much over this back edge if at all possible, but you want a good seal. So, but I did notch this little area out around the clasp just to have it fit. So you want as much plastic as you can, and I just used polyurethane. So I'll show you, I'll do that on here. So got my piece of plastic. I've already dry fitted it, and you want the straightest edge on the bottom. So I dry fitted it, and you want it to try to be as close to the edges as possible to give you as much surface area as you can. I use that word surface area a lot. And I'll just put this on. My brush is kind of stiff from letting it sit out too long. I don't go crazy, but I do want a nice, I don't want a big pooling thing, but I want a nice coverage, especially along that little bottom part. So, sorry, I know you can't see this, but okay. So I'll try to work it in the bottom. So I'm going to put the nice sharp edge, set it in there, and you're like, it would be nice to be able to tape that in there, but it's very hard to get tape in there. So what I did is I got some sponges, and I basically put it like that. So I use sponges to help it dry and hold it in place. It worked very well on this front. So I use tape on the top and sponges in the middle. I do one side at a time and let it totally dry. So that worked out pretty well. Well, after you get done doing that, you'll get your finished piece. You're like, finally. So this is what it will look like with the insert, and I'll do another video with the insert. So I think they came out beautiful. The toys came from Warhammer. I'm sorry, the little daggers and stuff came from Warhammer. Scrap box I had.